Okay, so everyone, we are diving into some pretty wild events coming out of South Korea.
Yeah, wild is definitely one word for it.
I mean, seriously, martial law.
Right.
You hear about it in history books,
Right.
but seeing it play out in a modern democracy,
I mean, it's pretty shocking, to be honest.
totally. So for those just tuning in, we're talking about President Yoon Suk Yeol's attempt to declare martial law and the National Assembly's pretty swift move to block it.
And all this is happening against this backdrop of accusations about anti-state forces and even ties to North Korea.
Which, in a country that's literally still at war.
Yeah, those kinds of accusations carry a lot of weight.
So let's break this down. What exactly led to President Yoon taking such a drastic step?
Right. So President Yoon's argument was essentially that the opposition was becoming a serious threat to national security. He claimed they were, intentionally undermining the government and even, like you said, possibly working with North Korea.
And the opposition's take on this?
They saw it as a blatant power grab. They're saying that Yoon was using these accusations to silence dissent and consolidate his own power.
Okay, so we have this war of words, and then things escalate really quickly. There are reports of troops being deployed to the National Assembly? I mean, was this a legitimate fear of a coup?
Well, it certainly looked that way to many people, especially when you consider the security footage that surfaced, which seems to suggest there were plans to actually detain several high-ranking figures in the opposition.
Including the National Assembly Speaker, right?
Exactly. And even the leader of the opposition party. So, I mean, you can understand why people were freaking out. And then on top of that, you have these images of clashes between protesters and soldiers.
It's crazy, like this image of a protester trying to physically disarm a soldier. It's like something out of a movie.
It really shows how deeply people felt betrayed by this whole situation. Like, here are citizens confronting their own military, accusing them of turning against the very people they're supposed to be protecting. It's just wild.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think about, the delicate balance between national security and individual freedoms, right?
Yeah.
I mean, under what circumstances is it okay for a government to restrict those freedoms?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it gets to the heart of the debate around martial law. I mean, constitutionally speaking, it is allowed in South Korea, but only under very specific conditions.
Like a war or a major natural disaster or something like that?
Yeah, like a genuine national emergency. But the problem is that many legal experts are saying that President Yoon's justifications didn't meet that threshold.
Which is why the National Assembly was able to overturn the declaration so quickly, right?
Right, exactly. And that was actually a really important moment because it demonstrated that, at least for now, the checks and balances in the South Korean system are holding up.
But this whole thing has definitely put South Korea in the international spotlight. I mean, even the White House expressed serious concern about the situation. What kind of impact do you think this is going to have on their global standing?
Well, the White House's statement definitely raised some eyebrows. It suggests that even South Korea's closest allies weren't given a heads up about Yoon's plans, which is, not a great look. It's definitely going to raise questions about South Korea's political stability and whether they're really committed to democratic principles.
So what happens now? Where does South Korea go from here? I mean, you have these protests continuing, the opposition digging in their heels. It doesn't seem like this is going away anytime soon.
No, it definitely doesn't. And I think this whole situation has the potential to completely reshape the political landscape in South Korea, and maybe even their standing on the global stage. I mean, it's really forcing everyone to confront this fundamental question. How do we balance security concerns with democratic values?
And that's a question that, frankly, all of us need to be asking ourselves. What would you consider a justifiable reason to declare martial law? Where do you draw the line?
It's a tough one, but it's something we all need to think about.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's the situation in South Korea as it stands.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, a lot to think about.
All right. Thanks for breaking that down for us.
Of course, happy to.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Stay tuned for more and keep those brains working.
Yeah, stay curious.